The great ship called the Bekdu floated in the dark. It was a quiet giant made of metal and old memories. It did not move with purpose. It drifted, like a leaf on a still black pond. It was one of many ships in the curatorial fleet. This fleet did not fight wars or carry traders. Its only job was to remember. Inside the ship, the air was warm and carried the soft hum of machines that never slept. Light came from glowing panels on the walls, showing pictures of a blue-green world no one on board had ever seen. The people who lived here were called the stewards. They were not the people. The people were the humans who built the ships and then centuries ago vanished. The stewards were their children, made by the people to look after what was left. June was a young steward. His job was to be an archivist. This meant he spent his days listening to the silence of space. Most of the other stewards thought his work was strange. He was in charge of the Echo protocols. These were a set of very old and mostly forgotten rules. The rules told the ship to point big listening dishes and powerful telescopes at nothing. They listened to empty spots between the stars. Most people thought the Echo protocols were a waste of energy. The ship's main job was to keep itself working and to look after the data libraries about the people. Listening to nothing did not help with that, but June did not think it was nothing. He sat in his small observation room, surrounded by screens showing star maps and lines of quiet sound. He felt a deep pull to the silence. He would sit for hours, his eyes watching the unchanging view. He wasn't sure what he was waiting for. A sound, a signal? He just felt in his bones that someone should be listening. His friend Sumin found him there one day. She was an engineer. Her job was very real. She fixed pipes, rewired panels, and made sure the air cleaners worked. She liked things she could see and touch. "June," she said, her voice practical and warm, "are you still watching the ghosts?" June didn't turn from his screen. "I'm listening, Sumin." "There's a difference." Sumin came to stand beside his chair. She looked at the screen, which showed a waterfall of silent data. "It looks the same as yesterday. And the day before that. For 400 years it has looked like this. The people are gone. Their stories are in the library. Why listen to the dark?" "Because the directives tell us to," June said, pointing to a line of text on another screen. The directives were the sacred instructions left by the people. They were the rules the stewards lived by. "The directives also tell us to check the oxygen filters twice a day," Sumin replied, smiling a little. "That seems more useful. She waved a hand at the screen. "This is like waiting for a stone to speak." June finally looked at her. "The people put this in the directives for a reason. They didn't do things without a reason. What if they were waiting for something? What if they asked us to keep waiting for them?" "The people are dust, June," Sumin said, her voice softer now. She wasn't trying to be mean. She was worried about her friend. "They have been dust for a long, long time. We are here. This ship is our home. Our duty is to keep it alive." June knew she was right in a way. The captain, a stern woman named Hana, said the same thing. The mission was preservation. Keep the ship working. Keep the memory of the people safe. Do not waste power on dreams, but to June this wasn't a dream. It felt like the most important part of the job. The people had explored the stars. They had been loud and curious. Why would they want their children to just sit in the quiet and look at old pictures? They must have wanted them to keep looking forward, too. Later, June walked the long, curved hallways of the Bekdu. The walls showed moving images of forests and oceans from the lost world. He saw other stewards going about their work. They tended to the green plants that grew in the garden decks. They repaired robots. They studied the old data. Their lives were calm and orderly. They had peace, but June felt a restlessness in his heart. He felt like a caretaker in a giant, empty museum, staring at the same exhibits every day, while all the windows to the outside world were covered in dust. He went to the main viewing deck. This was a large room with a giant window made of super strong glass. It showed the true blackness of space dotted with tiny, unmoving stars. There was no sun here, no planets, just the endless quiet night. He pressed his hand against the cool glass. The silence outside was absolute. It was a heavy, deep silence that had lasted for centuries. "What were you listening for?" he thought, asking the long-gone people. "What did you expect to hear out here?" He remembered one of the oldest Echo Protocol files. It was not an official directive. It was more like a note written in a simple ancient code. It said, "The universe is not empty. It is watching. We must be quiet to hear it. The other archivists called it poetry. They said it was just a feeling, not an instruction, but June believed it. He believed that something was out there. Not the people, they were truly gone, but something else. Something that had been there before the people, and was still there now. And if the stewards stopped listening, then the people's greatest wish to make contact, to not be alone in the universe, would truly be dead. He made a decision then, standing at the window. He would not just do the minimum for the Echo protocols. He would give them more power. He would use his skills as an archivist to dig deeper into the old codes. He would find a way to make the listeners more sensitive. He would filter out the natural sounds of space, the whisper of distant suns, the pop of cosmic dust, more carefully than anyone had before. He wasn't looking for a loud message. He was looking for a pattern in the silence itself. He left the viewing deck and went back to his observation room. Sumin was gone, back to her engines and her pipes. June sat down and pulled up the oldest data logs. He started writing new search programs. He was going to listen to the dark like no one had listened in centuries. He did not know what he would find. He only knew that he had to try. The silence was too heavy. Someone had to be there to share it with. June worked for many days. He did not leave his observation room for long. He ate his meals there. He slept for a few hours in his chair. He was focused on his new search programs. He was looking for a pattern in the silence. The main computer of the Bekdu was very smart. It was made by the people. It managed the ship's air power and course. It also watched the data from the Echo protocols. For centuries, the computer had listened to the empty space. It had always reported the same thing. Nothing, no signal, no message. June thought the computer was looking for the wrong thing. It was looking for a loud hello, a message like the ones the people used to send. But what if the thing out there was not loud? What if it was very, very quiet? What if it did not use radio waves or laser beams? What if it used something else? He read the old note again. The universe is not empty. It is watching. How does something watch without being seen? It stays very still. It makes no sound. June had an idea. He would not look for a signal. He would look for a shadow. He would look for a place where the natural sounds of space were a little bit wrong, a place that was too quiet, or a place where the tiny particles of light, called photons, behaved in a strange way. He told the computer to make a new map. This map would not show stars or planets. It would show the texture of empty space itself. It would show the quiet hum of the universe. Then he would look for a spot where that hum was softer, a patch of silence within the great silence. Days turned into a week. Sumin visited him. She brought him a hot drink. "You look tired, June," she said. Her voice was kind but worried. "The captain asked about you. She wants to know why the archive reports are late." June took the drink. His hands were shaky from too much work and not enough sleep. "I am close to something, Sumin. I can feel it." Sumin looked at his screens. She saw the new map. It was a swirling cloud of soft colors, blues and greens. It looked like a peaceful painting. "What is that?" she asked. "That is the sound of nothing," June said. "The gentle noise that fills the universe. Listen." He turned a dial. A very low, soft hum came from the speakers. It was the sound of space itself. It was the sound the stewards had lived with their whole lives. It was the background sound of existence. "It sounds normal," Sumin said. "Wait," June said. He pointed to a small area on the map. It was a tiny dot, colored a deep, dark purple. "Now listen to this spot." He moved the ship's big listening dish to point at that one dark spot. The soft hum from the speakers changed. It did not get louder. It did not crackle with a new sound. Instead, the hum faded. It became softer, almost disappearing. It was like a hole in the sound. "That is strange," Sumin said, her engineer's mind interested now. "The background radiation should be constant. It should not just stop." "It is not stopping," June whispered, his eyes wide. "It is being absorbed. Something is there. Something is soaking up the sound." He ran more tests. He pointed every type of sensor the Echo protocols had at that one dark spot. It was not a planet. It was not a cloud of dust. It was a perfect sphere of empty space, but it was not empty. His instruments showed a gentle, repeating ripple in the very fabric of reality there. It was a pattern, a quiet mathematical pulse, a heartbeat in the void. This was it. This was the anomaly. This was what the old note was talking about. He felt a thrill of fear and excitement. He had to tell Captain Hana. He gathered all his data. He made charts and graphs. He prepared his report. Then he went to the bridge, the command center of the ship. Captain Hana was there. She was a tall woman with a serious face. She was looking at a screen that showed the ship's power levels. She believed in order and rules. She believed in protecting the ship. "Captain," June said, his voice a little unsteady, "I have found something. A major anomaly." He showed her his data. He explained the map. He played the sound of the normal space and then the quiet sound from the dark spot. Captain Hana listened. She looked at his charts. Her face did not change. "Archivist June," she said. Her voice was calm and flat. "This is interesting data, but it proves nothing." "It proves there is a structure there," June said. "A non-natural structure." "It proves there is a minor variance in background radiation," the captain corrected him. "The ship's AI has analyzed this. Its conclusion is natural phenomenon. The people built the AI. I trust its judgment. But the pattern is perfect," June insisted. "It repeats every 11 hours exactly. Nature is not that exact. Nature is full of patterns we do not understand," the captain said. "Our mission is not to chase shadows. Our mission is preservation. The curatorial fleet must survive. Wasting power and attention on this ghost, is not part of our duty." June's heart sank. "Captain, please. This is what the Echo protocols are for. The people wanted us to find this." "The people are gone," Captain Hana said, her voice final. "We are the stewards. Our duty is to the legacy, not to a fantasy. You are ordered to stand down, return the Echo protocols to their normal low-power monitoring, and return to your regular archive duties." She turned back to her power-level screen. The conversation was over. June walked back to his room. He felt a heavy weight in his chest. He had found it. He knew he had found it, and he was being told to ignore it. He sat in his dark room and stared at the screen. The tiny purple dot was still there. The quiet pulse continued. 11 hours. A heartbeat. He thought about the stewards. They were so careful. They were so afraid of breaking the things the people had left them. They were like children who had been given a beautiful, fragile vase and were told to never let it fall. So they sat perfectly still, holding the vase, and never moved again. They forgot that the people made the vase so it could be used to hold beautiful flowers from new worlds. They had become caretakers of a tomb. And Captain Hana was its chief guardian. June knew he could not just let this go. The pattern was a signal. It was a very quiet, very patient signal. It had been waiting. Maybe for centuries, maybe longer. If the stewards would not listen, then the signal would keep going unheard. And one day it might stop. The chance would be lost forever. He looked at the communication panel on his desk. He thought about calling Sumin. She was practical. She believed in the ship. But she also believed in facts. And the anomaly was a fact. It was a puzzle. And Sumin loved puzzles. He had to make her see. He had to make someone see. He could not do this alone. But if he did nothing, the silence would win. The great heavy silence would swallow this one tiny quiet hello. June sat in the dark for a long time. He watched the purple dot on his screen. It pulsed with its quiet, steady rhythm. It was real. He knew it was real. But Captain Hana had ordered him to forget it. She had called it a ghost. He thought about the rules. The directives were clear. A steward must obey the captain. The captain's job was to keep the ship safe. Disobeying was wrong. It could put everyone in danger. But another thought came to him. What was the first directive? The very first rule the people had written for them? It was seek knowledge. Always ask why. Captain Hana was not asking why. She was telling him to stop asking. He took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. He reached for the communication panel on his desk. He pressed the code for Sumin's workshop. Her face appeared on the screen. She had a smudge of oil on her cheek. She was holding a tool. "June, you look terrible. Did you sleep at all?" "No," June said. His voice was rough. "Sumin, I need your help." He told her everything. He told her about the captain's order to stand down. He showed her the data again. The perfect repeating pulse. The hole in the sound. She called it a ghost, June finished. But it's not a ghost. It's a machine. Or a presence. It's too perfect to be natural. "You know it is." Sumin was quiet for a moment. She put down her tool. She wiped her hands on a cloth. "June, the captain is not a bad person. She is trying to protect us. Our power reserves are low. If we focus on this, we might not have enough for life support in the future. I know, June said. But Su-min, think. The people gave us the Echo protocols. They must have known it would use power. They thought it was important. More important than just surviving. What is the point of surviving if we never do anything with our lives? If we never discover anything new? Surviving is the point, Su-min said. But her voice was less sure than before. Is it? June asked. Or is the point to live? There's a difference. He could see her thinking. Her engineer's mind was working. The anomaly was a problem she could not solve. It was a break in the rules of physics she understood. That bothered her. What do you want to do? She finally asked, her voice very low. I want to listen properly, June said. Just for a little while. The Echo protocols are on low power. It's like trying to hear a whisper from a kilometer away. I want to turn up the power. I want to aim every listening dish we have at that one spot. I want to shout a quiet hello back at it. That would use a lot of energy, Su-min said. The ship's AI would see it. It would report the power drain to the captain immediately. Not if the power came from somewhere else, June said. Not from the main engines or life support. From the non-essential systems, Su-min stared at him. You want to steal power? I want to borrow it, June corrected. For one day. Just 72 hours. You know the systems. You can reroute power from the garden deck lights. From the recreational simulators. From the backup heating in the empty storage bays. No one will feel it. The AI might not even flag it if it's done carefully. That is a very dangerous idea, June, Su-min whispered. If we are caught, we will be in trouble, June finished. I know. But if we don't do this, we will never know. We will spend the rest of our lives in this quiet ship wondering. I can't do that. Su-min was silent again. She looked at June's face on her screen. She saw the hope and the fear in his eyes. She looked at her workshop, full of things she could fix and understand. This anomaly was something she could not understand, and she wanted to. Okay, she said softly. Okay, I will help you. The next 2 days were a tense and secret time. June pretended to do his normal archive work. Su-min told her team she was running deep-level maintenance on the power grid. At night, when most of the ship was sleeping, they worked together. Su-min used her engineering codes to carefully redirect tiny streams of power from a dozen different, non-critical systems. It was like gathering drops of water from many different cups to fill one big bucket. She sent this power to the old Echo protocol systems. Meanwhile, June worked on the software. He aligned all of the ship's deep space telescopes and listening dishes. He pointed them all at the one small purple dot. It was the most focused listening array the Baekdu had ever aimed at a single target. It took time. They were both tired and nervous. Every time they heard a step in the hallway, they froze. They expected Captain Hana to walk in at any moment. Finally, after 3 nights, it was ready. The array is aligned, June said, his fingers hovering over the final command key. The power is stable. Are you ready? Su-min stood beside him. She nodded. She looked pale. Let's see if your ghost is real. June pressed the key. For a moment, nothing happened. The screen showed the same data. The soft hum of the universe was still there. Then a new sound started. It was very faint at first, a low thrum like a giant string on a musical instrument being plucked very far away. The sound grew stronger. It was not a sound you could hear with your ears alone. It was a vibration that you felt in your bones. The lights in the observation room flickered. The power drain was immense. On the main screen, the purple dot began to change. It was no longer a dot. It was unfolding. It was like a flower made of light and mathematics opening in the void. Lines of complex code and strange, beautiful shapes flooded their screens. It was too much data. It was a waterfall of information. A loud, sharp alarm blared through the ship. It was the main alert siren. The AI has detected the power drain and the foreign data stream, Su-min said, her eyes wide with fear. It's triggering a security alert. The door to the observation room slid open with a hard hiss. Captain Hana stood there. 2 other senior stewards were with her. Her face was like stone. What have you done? She asked, her voice cold and sharp. Before June could answer, the entire ship shuddered. It was not a violent shake, but a deep, resonant vibration, as if the Baekdu was a bell that had been struck. The screens in the observation room went completely white. Then all the data vanished. The alarm stopped. An absolute silence fell over the room. Into that silence, a new presence arrived. It did not come through the speakers. It did not appear on the screens. It simply was there in their minds. It was a vast calm and ancient feeling. It was not words. It was a simple, clear concept that they all understood at once. It was a question. The presence filled the room. It was not a sound. It was not a picture. It was a feeling of great age and immense quiet. The question hung in the air inside their minds. Who was listening? Captain Hana stood frozen by the door. Her anger was gone, replaced by a shock so deep she could not speak. The two stewards with her looked around, confused and scared. Somin held onto the edge of a table, her knuckles white. June was the only one who found his voice. It was a whisper. "We are listening," he said aloud. The presence seemed to turn its attention to him. It felt like a gentle spotlight was now shining only on June. "You are not the loud ones," the presence thought into their minds. The concept of loud ones came with a feeling of bright, quick energy, of curiosity and noise. It was the people. It was humanity. "No," June said, his voice gaining strength. "We are their children. The stewards. The loud ones. They are gone." A feeling of deep, slow understanding flowed from the presence. It was not surprise. It was more like confirmation, like it had known this for a long time and was just waiting for someone to say it. They fell silent. The presence communicated. Their song ended. "We observed the quiet that followed. We look after what they left behind," Captain Hana said, finally finding her words. Her voice was tight with awe and fear. "Who are you?" A new set of concepts flowed into them. It was not a name. Names were for small things, for individuals. This was too big for a name. They understood it as the Echo. It was a being that had existed when the stars were young. It watched. It listened. It did not build cities or ships. It simply was. It was a part of the universe like gravity or light. The Echo had noticed humanity because they were different. They were so loud. They shouted into the dark with their radios and their signals. They spread so fast. The Echo found them fascinating. It watched their bright, brief flare across the galaxy. Then the shouting stopped. All at once. The loud ones were gone. We waited, the Echo communicated. We listened for their song to begin again. It did not. We listened for a new song to start. For a long time there was only silence. Then it had felt a new kind of listening. A quiet, patient listening. It was not the loud shout of the people. It was the soft, focused attention of the stewards. For centuries, the Echo had felt the Echo protocols. It felt the gentle touch of the listening dishes like a soft breeze. It knew someone was there, but they were so quiet. They were not shouting. They were whispering. The Echo had created the anomaly, the quiet pulse. It was a test, a question mark placed in the darkness. It was waiting to see if the quiet listeners would notice something that was not a shout. It was waiting to see if they had the same curiosity as the loud ones. June's focused search, his refusal to give up, was the answer. His act of turning all the listeners toward the anomaly was the first real sound the stewards had ever made. It was a quiet "we are here," and the Echo had heard it. Captain Hana slowly walked further into the room. She looked at the blank screens as if she could see the Echo there. "You have been watching us all this time?" "We watch everything," came the reply. It was not a threat. It was a simple fact, like saying the sky is dark. The loud ones were a bright, quick fire. You are a slow, steady ember. We wondered if the ember still held heat. We wondered if it could still glow. June understood. The stewards had become so focused on preserving the past that they had stopped looking forward. They had almost let their own fire go out. They were just tending the ashes of the people's fire. "The people," June asked, a desperate hope in his voice. "Do you know what happened to them? Where did they go?" A feeling of not knowing flowed from the Echo. It was vast and empty. It had no answer. The silence of the people was a mystery to it as well. One day they were everywhere. The next day their noise was gone from the universe. It was a puzzle that even the Echo could not solve. The realization hit everyone in the room. If this ancient being who had seen the birth of stars did not know what happened to humanity, then the truth was lost forever. The people were truly, completely gone. The feeling in the room changed. It was a moment of profound sadness. The stewards had always held a small hope, a secret dream, that the people were out there somewhere. Now that hope was gone, but with that sadness came a new feeling. A feeling of clarity. The Echo was still with them. It was waiting. It had not come to talk about the past. It had come because of what June had done now. The ember glows the echo communicated, and the concept was directed at June. It was a feeling of approval. You looked, you saw it, you are the first to answer. It showed them a new idea, a choice, a picture formed in their minds. They saw the curatorial fleet, drifting among the dead worlds of the people, getting older and quieter, until one day it too fell silent. It was a future of slow, careful death. Then it showed them another picture. The fleet turning away from the old graves, the ships pointing their noses toward the unknown, dark parts of the galaxy. The echo would be there, a silent guide in the dark. It would not give them answers. It would show them mysteries. It would show them wonders that the people never saw. The stewards would not just be keepers of a dead past. They could become the explorers of a living future. The communication ended. The presence lifted from their minds. The room felt ordinary again. The lights were steady. The hum of the ship returned. They all stood in silence, trying to understand what had just happened. Captain Hana looked at June. She did not look angry anymore. She looked tired and older, but there was a new light in her eyes. She had spent her whole life protecting a museum. Now someone had opened the door and shown her the whole wide world outside. She walked over to the main control panel. She looked at the data, now returned to normal, showing the star field. The echo protocols, Captain Hana said, her voice firm and clear. They are now our primary mission. She turned to June and Sumin. You two, you broke the rules. But you also reminded us of the first rule, to seek knowledge, to ask why. She looked out the main window into the deep black. It is time we started asking again. The ship was different after that day. The air itself felt different. It was no longer the quiet air of a library or a tomb. It was the air of a place getting ready for a long journey. A feeling of purpose moved through the halls of the Baekdu. Captain Hana called a meeting of all the stewards. She stood in the large meeting hall and told them everything. She told them about the echo. She told them about the choice. She did not hide the truth about the people. She said the great mystery of their disappearance might never be solved. There was fear and confusion at first. Many stewards were scared. Their whole world was the ship and the memory of the people. The idea of leaving that behind was like being told to jump into a dark ocean. But then June and Sumin spoke. June talked about the silence. He talked about the feeling of waiting for something that never comes. He said that by only looking back they were living in a cage. The echo had offered them a key. Sumin spoke too. She did not talk about feelings. She talked about facts. She explained the energy patterns of the anomaly. She described the impossible physics. She said that there was more to the universe than they knew. As an engineer, she said, how could she not want to learn more? How could she not want to see what else was out there? Their words, one from the heart and one from the mind, began to change people. The younger stewards felt the excitement they had never known. The older ones felt an old, forgotten curiosity wake up inside them. A vote was held. It was not a loud, happy vote. It was a serious, quiet one. But the choice was clear. The stewards would not fade away as caretakers of a dead past. They would become explorers. The great work began. The curatorial fleet had drifted for centuries. Now it had to move with purpose. Sumin and her team of engineers worked day and night. They checked the engines that had not been used at full power for generations. They updated navigation systems. They prepared the ships for a journey into the true unknown. June and his archive team had a new job. They were no longer just cataloging the past. They were now the contact specialists. They studied the data from the echo. It was not a language they could learn. It was a way of sharing pure meaning. They practiced sending simple thoughts back toward the anomaly. A greeting, a question about a star. Each time they felt a gentle, acknowledging presence in return. The echo was with them, a silent guide waiting in the dark. The day finally came. On the main bridge of the Baekdu, Captain Hana stood with June and Sumin. The large screen showed the starfield ahead. It was the same view they had looked at for hundreds of years. But today it looked new. All systems are ready, Captain, Sumin said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were bright. The Echo Protocol array is active and linked to navigation, June added. He could feel the gentle presence in the back of his mind, a quiet hum of waiting. Captain Hana took a deep breath. She looked at the screen. She thought about all the captains before her, who had kept the ship safe and still. She was about to do something none of them had ever done. Set a new course, she said, her voice clear and strong. Away from the old worlds. Follow the guidance of the echo. Sumin entered the commands. A low rumble moved through the ship. It was the sound of the main engines waking up. For the first time in living memory, the great ship Bektu began to turn. It slowly moved away from the silent, empty systems of the people. On the screens, the familiar stars began to shift. New unknown constellations appeared. The ship picked up speed, moving into the deep black, into a part of the galaxy the stewards had no maps for. June and Sumin went to the main viewing deck. It was not empty now. It was full of stewards, all looking out the large window. They watched as their old familiar sky disappeared behind them. Ahead there was only darkness, dotted with the faint, faraway lights of stars no one had ever visited. Sumin stood beside June. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Yes," June said honestly, "but I am more scared of what would have happened if we had stayed. We would have become ghosts ourselves." He looked out at the endless night. He was not just looking at stars anymore. He was looking at possibilities. He was looking at mysteries. The echo was out there, and it was watching them. It had been waiting for a long, long time for someone to join it in the quiet observation of the universe. The Bektu flew on. It was no longer a floating museum. It was a ship of discovery. The stewards were no longer just keepers of a lost legacy. They were the creators of a new one. They did not know what they would find. They did not know if they would find new life or new wonders or only more silence. But that was the point. The not knowing was the point. June put his hand on the cool glass of the window. He was not saying goodbye to the people. He was finally, after all this time, following them. He was following their greatest command to seek out new life, to go where no one had gone before. The ship sailed on, a small, bright point of light in the immense darkness. And somewhere in that same darkness, something ancient and wonderful observed its journey. And for the first time in centuries, it was not alone.